To understand hearing, we must understand vibration. Does vibration just continue? Hey, Composing Gloves here, and this is a sounds like, and we're doing Skrillex. Today we're doing that Ragga, the rag bomb song where they throw the bombs and they have lightsaber fights, and you know that one. So, okay, I have my demo sound, so I'll play that. That way you guys can decide whether or not you want to keep watching it. This was not an easy sound, and there's lots of little tweaks. So anyways, here's the original. Let me turn my speakers down. Okay, here's the original. So that's what I was going for, that na thing. Okay, so mine, granted, is by itself. It's not been mixed or mastered. So here it is. So I'm like there. It's one of those things where you're there, but you're not there. So I'm going to show you what I did, and then maybe you can get even closer. I feel like I could continually get closer. It's just a lot of things and knobs barely moving to sort of get the exact timbre. It's a lot more difficult to like nail a sound someone else made. This is not the easiest sound on the planet to do. I feel like if I lowered this, but I don't know. There is a... If we change this to... I want to change my EQ. Okay, so let's just talk about what the patch is doing. Okay, so right off the bat, we're going to make this too. At least I'm going to try and make it. So, okay. We have oscillator 1, oscillator 2. They're both going out. One is a sine wave. One is mostly a square wave. And you can see their relative levels. They are going to filter 1. Its filters have been set in parallel configuration. Now, I have a whole thing on Massive from the ground up in case you're curious and want to learn more about Massive. So I'm not going to be like explaining what certain things do. They've both been pitched down an octave. And the scream filter, granted, I'm going to make this patch. So so chill out if you're like watching and being like, you're going so fast. The scream filter, this is what I settled on. Now with the filter, you're setting where your resonance is going to be, and then the scream is a feedback loop. And I've turned up the resonance quite a bit, so it's creating that bite at that around 600 hertz is where he has his. At least that's what it sounds like. It might be a bit higher, a bit lower. I don't even know. So we have now this is really, really important. I have the Sine Shaper, the parabolic shaper, and the classic tube all going. And the classic tube's on full blast. The drive is just a little bit down. These have been set by ear. The Sine Shaper is mega important, and it's got this little blue line of movement. Now, the Sine Shaper is an interesting deal because if you have a harmonic reach the edge, it'll generate a lower harmonic and completely change your sound. So you got to be really careful about the Sine Shaper. So I have it turning off as the sound goes. So we get that grit and bite, but then it becomes a little more mellow. It's still like outrageously, but this is like more, like it. Then we have noise. The noise has, it's bright noise. The color's been brought up and the amp has been brought up. This is or been brought down substantially. This is to give it that random texture that this sound has. So... Well, mine's really low. So when we have that pitch bend. So I'm also moving the pitch, and these are both being controlled by the same pitch source. This allows it so that it should be pretty obvious. If these things aren't controlled by the same exact source, they're going to be off. Even just by 1.01 it's going to sound gross. So it has to be perfectly the same. And then a couple other notes that are important. The oscillator restart is on. If I turn it off, yeah, it's an important button to push. So that because it changes the way when these two roll on phase, it changes where they sum, and sometimes they're going to add up differently and trigger the filters and distortion units in different ways, which is going to make a huge difference. That's all I really touched in here. Everything else, I experimented with a couple other ideas, but they ended up not sounding so great. And then I came into post. In the post, I've got this going on, just trying to clean up, creating some divots, some holes with some resonance to give the sound, trying to match the texture of this sound. The wave shaper is pretty simple, and without it on, so that's what it sounds like. And then now granted, I haven't mixed mine at all, so I didn't even give a crap. I wanted to just get as close as I could to the sound. And then I came up with a second EQ. Now the EQs are quite substantial. So is the wave shaper. They are substantial because if you do too much cut, your sound will sound really, really squashed. I've already hit the floor. The roof, the ceiling, I've compressed it pretty much as far as I could go without ever having to use any compression, just from the amount of distortion that I'm using. So I'm using this to try and clean it up. His is really clean, and this is something that I could spend more time on and really nail the texture that I want. This is something else also that when I was writing the line, I settled on G3, and it sounds, this is like the particular layout, the notes, the rhythm. They had these gaps, and I just spent a while trying to get the rhythm, because that'll give me a better feel, and it also will sound more like that sound, which is something that I wanted. So see how these, I feel like he's got small pitch bends on the ends of all his notes, but I could be wrong. Where's the paste value? Copy value, paste value, and then we could do it again here. Paste value, paste value, and then maybe not so dramatic, but he's got them. Pitch is a major player in something like this. Okay, so let's make one. I also have a second version. It didn't come out so great. So, okay, let's go to massive. I also tried doing this with citrus. It ended up becoming a nightmare, so I just went with what I have here. Okay, so massive, right? We're gonna go to our sine wave. And here's the lowdown on the patch, the methodology we're gonna do. We're gonna do another sine wave, so we're gonna turn this one up to a square. We're gonna set it through a scream filter. We're gonna use that to create our resonance in the body of the sound. We're gonna use the noise to create the randomness and aggressiveness of the sound. The inserts are distortion units. We're gonna use that to create the distortion profile of the sound. Afterwards, we're gonna send it through an EQ, another distortion unit to bring out more texture. Maybe that might not be a great idea, but we'll find out. And then we'll do it through another EQ, like exactly what I did. This was sort of the plan. And so we're going to use the scream filter in massive. Now, again, I have a whole thing on massive on my YouTube channel. So go check it out on the channel you're watching right now. So we have sine and sine square, and I'm going to send this one to filter 1. It doesn't matter. This one goes to filter 1 or filter 2, because we're going to send it to be serial. And since filter 2 is on nothing, it's not going to do anything. But I want to be consistent with my previous patch, just to avoid anything I might not foresee. If for whatever reason this matters. It shouldn't matter at all, though. And so we get this. Let's copy the notes. Let's copy. Let's go to a new thing. Let's go to paste. We'll paste them. And we'll put them down here. I'm going to turn this off and this off for now. So we have that. You can't hear it because the notes are super low, and I've got a filter on. So if I turn the filter up. So let's add that resonant scream. Here's the resonance. Okay, so let me quick do something else. I'm gonna disable. Don't steal my keyboard focus, man. Okay, so I'm gonna come over here to the oscillator and restart via gate. I want my things to be consistent, because if they sum up different and they hit my distortion different, it's gonna sound horrible, like I demonstrated earlier. So, all right. His is somewhere in this range. It's so interesting how it's the tiniest moves. That'll become important later. Okay, so we got that. Let's add some distortion. So we're gonna first add the Sine Shaper. Next will be the sample, not the sample, and hold, the Parabolic Shaper. Finally, the Classic Tube, which actually contributes a lot. Okay, so I'm going to put an envelope on this guy and have him turn off a little bit. I'm going to add some noise. I'm going to change it to bright and bring the color up, which is basically just a filter. Now the Sine Shaper, as I talked about, when you reach the edge, it's going to introduce more harmonics because of the nature of the distortion that this particular thing does. So I've got to be careful about that. By moving this, I can avoid it. I'm going to bring these down an octave by holding Alt and dragging. Okay, so we get this sort of thing. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to link. I'm not going to create another pitch envelope. So I came in here and wrote a rhythm that goes along with my song, and it just becomes a nightmare. So instead of going through and making my own pitch envelope again, I'm going to just link up this one. I'm going to just link up this one to this. So they're going to be linked together. All right, so let's do this. So browse parameters. We're going to go, just click on the one, and it will highlight it. Click link to controller. Well, you don't have this yet. So you're going to have to create one and make your own volume thing. But once you have one, and you've made it for one, you need to do it for, you need to link your other one to that one because it needs to be perfectly in sync. So we're going to go to browse parameters, click on oscillator 2, right click, link to controller, link it to the pitch envelope you made. Make sure remove conflicts is not on and click accept. Now they're both linked together. We have this. That's not bad for just being a massive, right? So we're getting closer. His sounds a little bit higher when I listen to it. I'm going to show you one interesting idea after this, but I went with this. So we could adjust it with the scream filter though. So anyways, so we got a lot more mud in ours, so I'm going to bring the noise down. This envelope turning on is going to impact your sound big time too. So let's go ahead. Let's put this in its own track. And let's turn on a EQ and see if we can maybe find some frequencies. First of all, let's deal with the bass. It looks very clear like he has a separate sub, which we have a separate sub going in ours, but it looks like he has a pretty obvious one that goes do do do, like you could see it, and we're gonna have drums and stuff. So it's not, I don't have all that stuff going and for the mix right now, so we're just gonna deal with some of this tone right here. We're gonna find 500-ish. We're gonna boost that just a smidge. We're going to bring down, this will create a really interesting rip effect because we have the resonance right here. So it's kind of interesting as the filter moves through it, we get more of a growl. You see what I'm talking about? It's interesting how it works. And we've taken out a lot of the bass, so only like the bass exists. You may, in a track ride, cut out everything under 20, but... So this is, I can notice this. I'm not sure how sensitive your ears are to EQ, where you are in your production path, but I could sit here and EQ all day, and it's really tough when you want to hit a profile like that because that's just tough to do. So let's go to distortion. Let's go to wave shaper. Let's add just a basic thing. Now we're getting a lot more. Now his is also a bit softer. So if we bring it back, things also will feel very different. Now, our distortion profile is not the exact same as his. So we could come in here and tweak more of the distortion. The cutoff will control where your resonant peak is, so you want to be careful with that. But if you're looking to change that, that's where you would go. And this, let's try messing with this. All right, so that's pretty much the sound I'm gonna settle with for now. I want to show you something else that's kind of cool. So let's turn on our drums. So it's like, ooh, yeah, it's aggressive and junk. So we can add another key. Now see right there, my sound really becomes quite thin because it's already so compressed. It's just hitting a wall. And I've got a boost happening at the end too, which is not helping anything. I should turn that off. So ideally, I'd turn this down so I have more room to do stuff. It sounds a little squashed though. It may not be the best move. Now we have a fight with our kick though. So, you know, it's just a bunch of give and trades. So, okay, one thing, what can you do, Mr. Gloves? What's another cool thing? Well, you can take it up. Let's take it up to we're at G3. Let's take it up to a B. And so we are going to record this. So I'm going to mute this because my recorder is on the master channel. So I was messing with this idea earlier. We are going to record it on play. Here it is. Okay, cool. So we only need one instance of it. Aw, junk. Come on. Okay. Okay, that's the correct one. We could record that too, and those are always interesting. Record one into another. But that's like a video for another day. Okay, so here it is. We have our two sounds. I'm going to turn off the first one so we can just get a listen to this one. Now, this is off by an octave, right? Or not an octave, by like, what is it, third? And so we have to pitch it down 500 cents to get the correct pitch. And what we can do is now we can mess with the resample and sort of see what we get. I like it. So we can mess with this. We can also further EQ this jazz and mess with it more. Now this gives us a way, like, this is the texture he's got a bit more of. And what we could do is use this as a layer with our other one. Kind of a cool thing. Turn our drums back on. So I'm going for his. I didn't bother trying to make anything else. We are lacking some brightness here too. So his is a bit more bright. So we could like come in here and try and EQ that up. And one answer would also be to bring everything down. And you get a sound that's, you know, it's not the exact same, but it's pretty darn close based on some similar ideas. And you can come in here and hopefully you can mess with it and make it something that you want. So I wish if I spent more time on it, I could probably get closer, but I'm just done. Like, I've made so many other cool basses in the process of trying to figure this one out that I'm just like, you know, I got like 50 other cool, amazing basses I could do. It's pretty ridiculous trying to get the sound. Sometimes I'd like to see him make his exact same sound again. Like, I wonder if he could do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes I make sounds and they're great, but it's hard to replicate the exact same sound because these little knobs and distortions add up so much that one little movement could throw everything off. So it's kind of a curious thing. It's more fun just to, you know, just make your own sounds. But anyways, there it is. Here's the one we made. Here's it without that thing. Here's his, which is different, but you know, whatever. And here's the one I showed you at the beginning. Oh, I bet it's off. This one. So, you know, they're all just different takes on his, on my version of whatever. I'm not sure what process he used. It's like, oh man, it's just so close. Yeah. So, it's just like, oh. So, what do you think of this? Drop it in the comments. Drop your take on it. What would you do different? What would you try? I stuck to plugins that I knew, but I have a feeling the type of plugin you use, like, I bet he didn't use Fruity Wave Shaper. I just don't think he did that. I think he had some sort of Ableton plugin. Maybe he kept it completely in Ableton. Maybe he kept it completely in Massive. I don't know. Maybe he didn't use Massive. Maybe he used FM8. I smell FM a little bit in that. I mean, I don't know. If you have any questions, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.